Good afternoon. It's Monday, January 18th. I'm Laura Cornfield, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. Hundreds of mourners, including relatives and friends, gathered at Jerusalem's Har HaMenuchot Cemetery this morning to take part in the funeral of 38-year-old Daphne Meir, the slain mother of 6, who was stabbed to death by a Palestinian terrorist outside her Otniel home last night. Among those attending were Education Minister Naftali Bennett and Minister of Culture and Sports Miri Regev, as well as opposition leader Isaac Herzog. She was eulogized by her 17-year-old daughter, who witnessed the murder, and her husband, Nathan. The Palestinian terrorist who stabbed Daphne Meir to death at her Otniel home in the Hebron Hills remains at large. Special forces, police, and soldiers continue to comb the area, as well as Palestinian villages near the settlement. Roadblocks have been set up, and caves and trails in the area are also being searched. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed the terrorist would be caught. We get more in this report from IBA's Margot Dudkevich.
Daphne Meir's daughter, 17-year-old Ranana, supplied security forces with a description of the terrorist who stabbed her mother and also tried to stab her. A neighbor supplied police with a description of the clothes the Palestinian attacker wore. Many questions remain unanswered concerning the route of the terrorist's escape. Today, security officials determined the terrorist was one of the Palestinian laborers who worked in the settlement, and estimate he planned the attack and his escape route, but left evidence in the field that is assisting the ongoing investigation. Today, all Palestinian laborers were barred from entering Otniel, and overnight 5 Palestinians were arrested during raids on nearby villages. It was early evening when the terrorist entered the yard of Meir's home located on the northern edge of Otniel. He encountered Daphne and began stabbing her. Her screams alerted her teenage daughter, who was inside the house with 2 other siblings. Ranana rushed outside to see her mother wrestling with the terrorist, trying to prevent him from entering the home. The terrorist tried unsuccessfully to retrieve the knife stuck in Daphne's body and stabbed Ranana before he fled. Ranana called her father Nathan, who had taken 2 of her siblings to a doctor's appointment in Gush Etzion. She told him a terrorist was in their home and had seriously injured Daphne, and then revealed that her mother was no longer alive. Friends waited for Nathan at the entrance to Otniel to accompany him to the family home. In the initial hours after the stabbing, residents were asked to remain inside their homes behind locked doors, while security forces conducted house-to-house search. Hours later, it was determined that the terrorist was no longer inside the community. Friends spoke of Daphne's courageous efforts to fight off the attacker. She worked as a nurse in the neurosurgery department at Soroka Hospital in Beersheba. They spoke about a premonition she had just weeks ago, when she wrote about the current wave of terror. It was shortly after the murders of Yaakov Littman and his son Netanel near Otniel. She expressed concerns for the emergency teams dispatched to the scenes of terror attacks and her concern for her family. Daphne Meir was a woman who enjoyed life, always sought to help people, was generous and had a heart of gold, friends said. She is the 29th Israeli to be murdered in the current wave of terror that shows no signs of abating. Margot Dudkevich, IBA News.
Also this morning, there was another attack, this time in the Gush Etzion settlement of Tekoa. Soldiers shot and injured a 17-year-old Palestinian terrorist after he seriously wounded a pregnant woman in a local clothing store. The victim was identified as Michal Fruman, the daughter-in-law of the late Rabbi Fruman. She was evacuated to Shaarei Tzedek Hospital for treatments. Doctors said no harm was caused to her unborn baby. The army called on residents to remain in their homes while soldiers scoured the area, fearing another terrorist was on the loose. IBA's Aria O'Sullivan was there and filed this report.
Perched on the edge of the Judean desert, Tekoa is reeling from this morning's attack. The terrorist, a youth from nearby Bethlehem, cut the perimeter fence and sought out his target. He quickly chose a pregnant woman and struck. Residents quickly shot him as the settlement security kicked in.
Terrorists come into the yishuv, the community, got into a shop, clothes shop, and attacked a woman there. Her friends went out and called to the people around. They all came, and he ran away. two people ran after him and shot him because he tried to attack them too.
Was he a worker from this area?
He wasn't walking. He came out of the yeshuv. He came from Bethlehem. He cut the fence, got into the community, and done what he done.
Hundreds of Arab laborers work in this Judean community, but the fear of more attacks had them quickly rounded up as troops sweep the area for more terrorists.
It is scary. I won't deny that. I won't sugarcoat that. But I have full faith in our army and in our security that we know how to take care of ourselves. And I have really full faith and full trust in our bitachon and in the army and them working together to keep us safe. Find out exactly how it happened and to prevent it from happening again.
The victim is ironically the daughter-in-law of the late Rabbi Menachem Fruman, who preached coexistence with the Arabs.
Me, myself, I'm not working in a job site that there is Arabs together because I don't trust them.
The attack here and in Otniel signifies an escalation in the conflict with the Palestinians, where Arabs strike inside settlements.
There's a big challenge is continue the life here, the routine life, make sure that our kids can grow like other kids in the world and our people can live like other people in the world. At the end of the day, the state of Israel still in the independent war for many years, and we have to say aloud that we come back to this area, to this state after 2,000 years in the diaspora, and we come back to stay forever. We will be here forever.
Tekoa is a unique community in Judea. We have secular people living with religious people. And when you have an Arab come into your community with a knife and stabbing a pregnant woman, it takes any sort of attempt to try to have coexistence with their fellow Palestinians around them and puts it into jeopardy. In Tekoa, this is Aryeh O'Sullivan for IBA News.
Encouraging news for some 3,500 employees of the mega supermarket chain, which today received a one-month extension to its lifeline. A judge at the Lod District Court granted the struggling chain 30 days protection from creditors and was expected to appoint trustees to keep the company going. This with the aim of finding a potential buyer and saving the jobs of thousands of employees. All of the chain's 126 branches were closed today as workers came out in full force to protest plans to shut down. Demonstrators who gathered outside the courthouse also demanded that Avigdor Kaplan, chair of Mega's holding company, Alon Blue Square, return a bonus of over 500,000 shekels that was given to him just last week. The financially strapped chain owes 1.2 billion shekels and is teetering on the brink of bankruptcy, a likely scenario if no buyer is found during the next month. Convicted former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert is close to signing a deal that will bring about a reduced sentence on remaining corruption cases he is involved in. Olmert's attorneys want his prison sentences to run simultaneously, meaning that the 8-month sentence handed down in the Talansky affair will be part of the 18-month prison term he was sentenced to in the Holy Land scandal. Olmert's defense team hopes to secure a Supreme Court ruling on Olmert's appeal, possibly by the end of the day. Last week, State Prosecutor Shai Nitzan said he has no intention of treating the former Prime Minister differently or giving him so-called celebrity discounts. Well, just hours after the West and Iran celebrated the lifting of decade-old sanctions, the United States announced it was slapping a new set of financial punitive measures on 11 firms and individuals based in the United Arab Emirates who helped Iran develop its ballistic missile program, violating a United Nations security resolution. The new round of sanctions came after the Obama administration delayed taking action for a number of weeks in order to negotiate the release of 5 Americans held in Iran. A Treasury Department official said Iran's missile program poses a significant threat to regional and global security and will continue to be subject to international sanctions. Responding to the move, a spokesman from Iran's foreign ministry claimed sanctions against his country's missile program were illegal. In related news, Wendy Sherman, a former State Department official who served as the lead American negotiator of the nuclear deal reached between Iran and the P5+1 countries, praised the agreement. Speaking in an interview with Israel Television's Yaakov Elon, on the day the decade-long sanctions against Tehran were lifted, Sherman said the process ensures a denuclearized Iran.
What's important here is what not only is in the interest of the United States of America, but the interest of the world as well, and that is to make sure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon. And this deal does indeed ensure that. And if for some reason Iran does not comply with the deal is not based on trust, it's based on verification. And so if at any time Iran does not comply, the United States unilaterally or with others will take action, and I am certain of that. So what I would say to all of the critics, and I know there are many, and I understand the concerns that people have, is that this is not a deal about trust, this is a deal about verification and ensuring the security of not only the United States, but the security of the world.
How can you ensure real verification?
Well, I think you ensure real verification because you know what's going on, and we do in Iran, because we have closed down all the pathways to fissile material that's needed to build a nuclear weapon, because the International Atomic Energy Agency has 24/7 access every day, every hour of the year, in any way it needs to, that we have eyes on the entire supply chain needed to build a nuclear weapon. And if Iran steps outside of this agreement, the United States will take action. President Obama means what he says. He will not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon, and I am sure that the next president of the United States will feel exactly the same way.
You know that the Iranians have cheated before.
Of course, but again, this is not about whether we trust. This is about whether we can verify and monitor, whether it is difficult, nearly impossible for Iran to get a nuclear weapon, because it would have to create a whole new supply chain. And look, we are going to continue to brief and consult with our partners and our allies. We have a very volatile Middle East. Everyone in Israel knows that far better even than I do. And Iran with a nuclear weapon would make that instability even greater and create even greater uncertainty for the security that's needed for the people here in this country and throughout the region and the world.
In a show of interfaith friendship and support, Pope Francis made his first visit as pontiff to Rome's Great Synagogue. Amid chanting of psalms in Hebrew and speeches underscoring the remarkable advances in Catholic-Jewish relations that have evolved over the past 50 years, the Pope became the third pontiff to visit Rome's main house of Jewish worship. In his address to the local Jewish community, the Pope referred to the recent wave of jihadist and anti-Semitic attacks worldwide, saying he denounced all violence committed in the name of God and stressed it has nothing to do with religion. Signs of another massive natural gas reserve have been discovered off Israel's Mediterranean shore. A local gas exploration group, led by Isramco Negev and Modi'in energy companies, announced findings of the reserve, which is estimated to contain some 8.9 trillion cubic feet and is comparable in size to the Tamar gas field. Ron Maor, CEO of Modi'in Energy, spoke of the field's amazing potential, saying that if realized, it could represent serious competition for existing reserves and dramatically improve the country's energy security. In local money matters, shares were mixed on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, while the shekel was mixed in foreign currency trading. Let's take a look at the late afternoon numbers. And the pollution level has risen significantly over the last several hours due to a dusty sandstorm which has swept the country. Health and environment officials are advising the public to remain indoors, with special warnings issued to the elderly population, pregnant women, those with heart and lung problems, and young children to refrain from strenuous physical activities outdoors. Yisrael and Arkia Airlines transferred flights throughout the morning from the Sde Dov Airport to Ben Gurion Airport for takeoffs and landings to and from Eilat due to the extreme air pollution and poor visibility. Hazy conditions are expected to continue overnight, accompanied by rain showers in the north and center, as well as continued sandstorms in the south. Here's a look at the temperatures at home and abroad for the next 24 hours. And that brings us to the end of this broadcast of IBA News. I'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same channel. Until then, have a good evening, and shalom from Jerusalem.